Hey, Being at Work listeners, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Andrea Butcher, and today we're talking about one of the most underrated yet vital traits of leadership, courage. Not the big, dramatic kind we often associate with heroic acts, but the everyday courage it takes to show up when things are hard, to have the tough conversations, to lead through discomfort, and to keep going when you're uncertain or even afraid. Our guest today is Anne Moser, a seasoned leader with deep roots in the service industry, and someone who has not only led through hard moments, but has built trust and lasting relationships because of how she showed up during those times. Anne has learned and lived that real connection and loyalty are forged not when everything is going well, but when you're in the trenches, solving a problem, navigating conflict, and choosing to stay present when it's most uncomfortable. So listen in to our conversation as Anne shares stories from her career that show exactly how courage plays out, from early missteps and powerful mentoring moments to navigating client trust during high-stakes situations. We'll also explore how to balance psychological safety with stepping out of your comfort zone, and why building trust starts with showing up, not just physically, but emotionally, with openness, honesty, and intention. This episode is packed with practical wisdom and deeply human insight. So if you've ever wondered how to lead when things go wrong, or how to help your team step into courage, this is the episode for you. So Anne, welcome to Being at Work.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have so much insight and a full career of stories to share. But start with some context. Tell our listeners what got you to where you are today.
Thank you. Well, I have been in the contracted service industry for over 30 years. And most of that has been in contracted food service, which means I feed people at work and have fed lots of customers and lots of clients across the country. I've also done integrated facilities management, which is not only the food portion, but all the things that go with the building, hard and soft services, so our clients can take care of their business. So my goal is to help support our client businesses and all the things that they don't need to think about every day, but make working there so much better. So I started my career as a catering manager.
Oh, wow.
And I rose through the ranks. My last two positions, I was overseeing the office division for facilities management in North America, technology clients, banking, professional services, and retail clients. And my very last position, I was the chief operating officer for a food division in North America, about $500 million. So I've had the opportunity to feed, serve, make sure that their facilities were clean and well working for thousands and thousands of customers. And while the services are different from food and facilities, they're always rooted in building relationships with your clients and with your customers. So no matter what the service is, that is really what's most important in order to be successful.
Yeah, and you've learned that it is in those difficult moments where the rubber hits the road that is what can make or break trust. So tell us about some of those situations that really highlighted that for you.
So one that really comes to mind for me is I had a situation where we had a service client that was quite large, and we had had them for several years, and they were in the middle of rebidding our business, and they loved the manager who was on site. She was fantastic, and she got offered a dream job doing something completely different and gave notice in the middle of it. Her boss, which they knew really well, we didn't think was going to take us to the next level, and we were making that change. And so these two really important changes were happening at the same time, and we were waiting any day for the client to make a decision about the business. So I knew I had to get in front of it. And I had a couple of options. One is I could call and try to talk to the client on the phone. I knew he was really busy, and it likely was going to take a day or two for us to connect and have the conversation. The rumor mill and offices can be quite fierce. And so there was a danger for sure that he would hear it from somebody else and not from me. Second is I could email, but that seems impersonal. And sometimes there could be misunderstandings or tone that wasn't intended in there. And it just didn't feel like the right fit. And the third option was I could go tell the client in person. And this client was super busy. He was always in meetings, but I chose that. I knew it was the most difficult, and usually the most difficult thing, the most uncomfortable thing is the right choice. So I went in early in the morning. I stood outside his office till he had a few minutes, and that took probably a good hour or two to have a conversation with me. And I went in and told him the uncomfortable news that the people that he knew, the people that he loved were leaving, but we had a plan. And have faith in the plan. Here's what we're going to do. And then I followed up with him regularly because, as you know, plans don't always go as you expect.
Right.
So it worked out really well. The client became a trusted client. He knew I had his best interest in heart and that I would always tell him the truth, good and bad, right away.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you took the time to go there without even having to say that sends such a clear message.
What was really interesting as we thought about it later, I really was trying to dissect why did this work and how to use this in a good way in the future. And I realized that, number one, he heard the news from me. I didn't send a delegate. It was me who was there. Even though it was uncomfortable, it let him know that he was a priority. His business, him as a person, they were a priority. And then when there's a problem, I would show up. The second is I came in with a plan. And I was open to having conversations with the plan, but I didn't just leave him a problem at his doorstep. And the third, and the piece that I think is so important, is the follow-up. So I know I've had managers work for me in the past, and they may have gone in to have the tough conversation and come up with a plan, and then they don't follow up. Right. And so what happens is the client doesn't know what's going on. They can assume the worst.
Right.
And they don't know if you're being transparent or hiding something.
Right.
So just keep that follow-up. That's the easy part. It should be. This is what happened. It's on track. It's not on track. And here's what we're going to do. Whatever you're doing, just be upfront and transparent.
Well, because stuff happens and everyone knows that. And so there's grace when you own it. I mean, that's the other thing I hear you like, okay, here's the challenge and here's what we're going to do. You didn't try to skirt around it. You didn't try to pretend it wasn't happening. You proactively addressed it. Like that is a trust builder also.
Absolutely. You know, if everything's always good and you interact and always good, you don't build trust. All you do is build a superficial relationship to some extent. And so when there's a problem that either of you have, it doesn't have to be huge, but when you work together, then that's how you build trust. Is together you're finding a solution to whatever the problem is. Together you're there working through it. You don't just show up for the good times. And that's how you really do build trust with clients.
You don't just show up for the good times. Yeah, I mean, showing up in the not so good times is part of this equation, isn't it?
It is. It's showing up when it's hard, when it's uncomfortable.
Showing up when it's hard. Mm-hmm. Well, and there is intentionality around that. I appreciate how you said, okay, here was the challenge and here were the like 3 options of things I could have done. You chose to go. There's something really powerful about taking a step back in the midst of a challenge and recognizing like, what are my options? I mean, I think so much of the time I'm like, go, 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 go. And I don't give myself the gift of that pause and that thoughtfulness to make really conscious, mindful choices.
Yes. I think that's so important. And the pause doesn't need to be long. I mean, it could be 5 or 10 minutes. But to think through, what can I do now? And what will be the outcomes? And what are potential hurdles that could happen? So if I chose just to leave a voicemail, I knew there was going to be a hurdle because he likely was going to hear it from someone else. I was no longer controlling the narrative.
Right.
And he might not even hear the right information.
Right.
And so to be really thoughtful and intentional about it sends the right signal. And you're right. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to just slap, slap, slap and want to move forward.
Right.
And taking that moment to step back and think.
Or even to think, I mean, I think about like this, there was a sales component here for you all. And I think so much of the time I'm like, well, done. What's next? Who's next? Right. And you're like, no, like this is a current client that we're going to salvage. And you said this client ended up becoming this was a long-term relationship then that you had. And a lot of that you attribute to this like showing up when it's hard.
Being there when it's hard, being there when it's difficult. It's so important.
Yeah.
And it's true even in your personal life, right? When you think about when you show up for your sibling or spouse or your kids in the hard times, not just the easy times, that's when you really build trust and growth. When you're there from your friends, when they're really having a tough time, you don't have to solve the world for them. You have to show up, even when it's uncomfortable.
I think every single one of us can look to those relationships that are most important, and we can see on the other side of the hard conversation is a stronger relationship. There's more understanding. There's greater connection. It's like going through it together, like you say. So what are some of the attributes that lead you or encourage you to show up when it's hard? Like what is some of the inner work that I need to do as a leader of my life in order to feel confident stepping into those moments? Because gosh, that's hard.
It is hard. I think there's a couple things. One is keep the end in mind. What is the outcome that you're looking for that meeting, for that relationship, for that conversation? Because you're dealing with two people and everybody could be coming at it from a slightly different place, including a lot of emotion, depending what the situation is. How do you keep emotion out of it and really focus on the solution? And then when you're there, whether it's personal or it's at work, how do you be an active listener? And that seems so easy to say, but the idea of at work, you're sitting up straight in your chair, you're leaning forward a little bit, you're not leaning back. You are taking notes. You're following up with questions to make sure that you understand with clarity. You don't have a defensive tone. And if you think about your kids, sometimes you won't need to take notes, but how do you make sure you don't have that defensive tone? How do you look them in the eye so they know you're paying attention and you're not on your phone or your computer? It's those little things that actually really make a difference in the long haul.
Yeah, it's presence, isn't it? It's being present. And it strikes me listening to you how the listening well is just that, listening. I think a lot of times we want to rationalize, we want to defend. If you're addressing something or perhaps sharing not great news, we also have to be okay with whatever their response is. Not taking it personally, not jumping in, trying to fix it. Let them feel what they're going to feel in that moment. How has that played out for you?
I think what you said is exactly right. And if you put yourself in a customer's perspective, you've probably been in a restaurant or a store and you're not getting very good service, or your meal is wrong, or, you just need a cup of coffee and the waitress is actively trying to avoid your eyes. Have you ever had that happen to you?
So frustrating.
And they know.
Right.
And they're actively avoiding you.
Exactly.
So how do you become not that waitress? How do you become, I know you're upset. Let me pick up the phone and call you.
Yeah.
Let me show up in your office. Let you vent. And it may be right. It may be wrong. Maybe it's somebody else on your team that messed up. Maybe your company sent a bill that was wrong and they're really mad. Anything could happen. It doesn't have to be about what you personally did.
Yeah.
But how do you own it? How do you listen with empathy? How do you find a solution to the issue and not get stuck in any kind of emotional drama? And that sounds defensive.
Well, it goes back to your end in mind, doesn't it? So, saying focused on the solution naturally is going to get you out of the emotion of it.
Yes. It's true, because if you're talking to somebody who's really upset, maybe you did wait a couple days too long. And now what happens when you feel like you haven't been heard? Right. You start replaying things in your mind. You tell yourself stories about how it should have gone, what they should have done, and everyone starts to stew a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there ever a good outcome there? No. it just explodes. It gets bigger than it has to be.
Yeah.
And if you're at that point and you know it's getting bigger, let them tell you whatever they need to tell you.
Yeah.
Let them express their emotions. Don't take it on personally. Just say, I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the issue we're trying to solve.
Yeah. Well, and it's not always going to work out the way we want it to, is it? I
That's
can
true.
think of it's been a few years ago, but I got myself in a tough spot with a client. I was working with the CEO on this engagement, and he brought in an HR leader to support us. And there was all kinds of momentum. We were moving really quickly. And as soon as he brought her in, like she this sense of urgency wasn't there. It was tough. The relationship that we had, that the CEO and I had, was very different. This relationship with her. So fast forward a couple of months, we're getting ready to kick off this engagement. And I had reached out to her a few times about something for the kickoff. No response, no response, no response.
Mm.
So I went to the CEO and I said, hey, is everything okay with your leader? And I've been reaching out, and he forwarded my message to her.
Oh,
So she very
that
much
did set up
took
for a
it
good relationship.
as I went behind her back, you know? So I owned it. I just completely owned it. It was so hard, but and I apologized for her. I said, hey, I did not take the time to build our relationship in the way. I did not take time to set expectations. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I should not have done that. But she did not want to work with me anymore. So have you had those situations when you do your part, you do your thing, you show up when it's hard, but it still doesn't unfold the way you want it to?
Oh, absolutely. Or part of your solution that you promised doesn't turn out right.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a point that it's almost like psychological safety a little bit. And how do you own what you can own and recognize there are things outside of your control?
Yeah, right.
Right. And if you have handled yourself in the best way possible, because when it starts to get emotional, it's easy to get dragged into being emotional, and then you're not your best self.
Exactly.
You don't show up as your best person,
No.
and you say the wrong thing. You get very defensive. You don't come up with the right solution. You blame people. That's never going to solve it. And then you have to own what you just did. So instead, keep the end in mind.
Yeah.
Think about it as the solution and let them vent and be the calm one in the room.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I mean, my takeaway there is, like, own what you can, let the cards fall where they may. They're not always going to fall in your favor.
That's so true.
At least the way in which you perceive it. I mean, who knows, from a bigger picture perspective, maybe that was meant to be because that wasn't the right client engagement. Who knows, right? Who knows?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's people involved. All sorts of things can happen.
Yes. All sorts of things can happen. So staying on this trend of showing up when it's hard, like doing the hard thing. Talk about you've got a really great mentor story. There's a mentoring relationship that has also highlighted this concept.
I had a great mentor early in my career. I was about 31. I had just gotten a big promotion, and I was feeling, honestly, a bit of an imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was a big stretch, but I had a mentor, a boss who just really believed in me. And he would spend time on the phone with me every week, and we would kind of walk through situations.
So great.
And I remember this one that has always stuck with me. I had a client who was a couple hundred miles away from where I was. And I was talking to my boss and saying, look, he's not really said anything that would lead me to believe this, but I got this weird feeling, that little tickle in the back of your brain that says something's not quite right. I think I'll just wait a week or so and see if anything happens. And my boss got right on me and he said, you know what? This is a great opportunity. Pick up the phone and ask some probing questions.
That's great.
Because if he is upset and you wait a week, he may have come up with a solution that has nothing to do with where we want to go with the business. Maybe it doesn't include us in the business. And if he doesn't have a problem and you ask him, he appreciates that you did. So I was really uncomfortable. It was one of those first big pieces of interaction with a client that I knew was going to be difficult and I needed to be careful about. So I made myself several notes. I had to do this on the phone. in order to be urgent about it. So I'd written down 3 or 4 questions I wanted to really ask and how I wanted to do it. So back to your comment earlier, Andrea, pause for a moment.
Yeah.
Don't just rush in. Pause and think about it. Put together a plan. Took a really big breath. And I know that this is an old saying, but smile when you're talking in your phone because your voice sounds better. So I got on the phone and I picked it up and called him and said, hey, I just have this feeling. Here's a couple questions. How are we really doing here? What is really going on there? And we were able to have a really honest conversation.
That's great.
And we got to the solution that he needed. And that has always stuck for me.
There are so many things about that story. Also, that you listened to your intuition. That there was something that told you, like, I don't know if it's really okay. There's something we need to.
It's so true. And I think we just pick up on subconscious
totally
behaviors, comments.
Yeah.
We can kind of see where this is going.
Yeah.
And even if you were wrong and you picked up the phone and said, hey, I just want to check in, no one's going to say, why are you bugging me? They're going to say, I appreciate it. Everything's good.
Everyone wants to be checked in on.
Exactly. I just want to make sure we're doing what you need. We're here. And if there's a problem, let's talk about how we solve it.
So why do you think that worked so well?
I think a couple of things. One, there's some urgency to it. If somebody's upset, don't let it sit. I mean, think again back to that sitting in the restaurant and you really just need to go. You need your bill, you need some coffee, whatever it is, and someone's actively avoiding you for 5 or 10 minutes, you just get really mad.
Yeah.
So if you have a client who believes that something is not going the right way and you let it sit 24 hours, 7 days, they just get madder and madder.
Yeah.
And then they're going to find a solution on their own. So number one, do it with some urgency. Number two, come in with a plan. Think about what you think their problem is and maybe 1 or 2 ways to solve it. You don't have to have it all figured out, but it means you've come in thoughtful. You've come in with some ideas. And as you listen to the client, they may bring up some things you didn't know and you may need to change the plan. So I think that's really important.
Well, and it's what strikes me is the list is so consistent with the earlier story you told us, isn't it?
It is. It is.
It's being planned. It's being thoughtful. It's coming in with the plan. It's acknowledging the challenge and what is.
If you had a handful of notes on a notebook in front of somebody and they verbally or visually could see you making notes and reading off of it,
right?
They know you thought about it
Absolutely.
ahead of time.
Great point. Like visual cues. Okay. So clearly this concept resonates. So much of what you've highlighted, Anne, is, stepping into the discomfort. You said multiple times, like in both situations, like I was uncomfortable. So we know there's growth in that.
Yes.
There's also this idea of flow, and things should feel easy and things should feel good. And so much of the time it's balance and it's being intentional about the situation. But how do you balance this, like keeping yourself in a good place where you can live out your strengths and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone? There's also in that, and maybe your answer is different, but I also think about, psychological safety has been a buzzword over the last few years. And people talk about putting yourself in a situation where you can do the hard thing. It's got to be an environment that is safe or ripe for that. So yeah, just comment on that. Those are just things that are popping up in my head.
When I think about psychological safety, and I'm thinking about in the context of work, right? Start by assuming that the other person has good intent. They might have a different view on whatever is going on. They might be coming at it from a different way, different ideas about what it should be, but believe they're there trying to do the right thing and trying to find a good solution. And if you start with that framework in mind, you don't assume that they're going to be defensive or assume they're trying to be manipulative or any of that. Assume the good intent. And then have the discussion. Most of the time, especially at work, it will go fine. You may end up with a different solution, but you will build trust and you will build relationship between the two of you. Occasionally, because there are people involved, there are some people who don't act with good intent. And they might be a bully. They might be inappropriate with comments. They might show you microaggressions towards you. All of those can happen. And so this goes back to take a step back, be in control of what you can. I remember early in my career if two people got in a fight in the kitchen, both of them got fired. Even if one person initiated it, the other person swung back, they both got fired. Don't let that happen to you. If the other person's acting inappropriate, don't be inappropriate back.
Yeah.
So I would say be control of what you can, your words, your actions. And then if you need to disengage and step back, do that. The second thing is then go talk to your boss, the HR department. Sometimes it's the client's boss or their HR department, depending what happened. Be as diplomatic as you can about it. Take the emotion out. Be objective about what happened, what you're trying to do. And if they were inappropriate bullying, microaggressions, let that person have an opportunity to solve it. Because, again, 99% of the time it will be done. And if that 1%, somebody doesn't, take a step back and think about yourself. If you have a mentor, somebody that you can really have a conversation with and say, this is what happened. This is how I feel about it. I think it really went this way and it's not being handled right. Find that person and have an appropriate conversation. Mentors are really good because they're able to say to you, you're right on. That's a bad thing. Or, you know what? Get over yourself, right? Every now and then we need to hear that too.
The good ones will tell you that.
The good ones will tell you that. But if there is a situation and you know you handled yourself appropriately and whoever you went to is unable to do it, don't go down the trap of the rumor mill.
Yeah.
Don't tell everybody else in your office about it. That's not going to help you. It's going to lead you down to the problems. Take a moment to say, am I in the right place? Am I dealing with the right company, the right client company? Who am I at my core? And occasionally, your core does not match with wherever your company is.
Right.
And then make an exit strategy. That doesn't mean quit on the moment. It means plan whatever it needs to be for you to figure out what your exit is. Different position in the company, a different boss, whatever that might be. It doesn't have to be changing the whole world, and it doesn't have to be tomorrow unless you're in a dangerous situation, which very few companies will allow. Now, if you're in a personal relationship, that could be a different situation. Sure. There might be some physical safety issues, and that would be a different conversation. But in a work environment, I would expect people are coming to the table to do the right thing.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. And what I appreciate about all of that is just the proactivity in it. It's because what ends up happening is whenever we feel offended or wronged, we lash out, we fight back, and it's very reactive, isn't it? And it just doesn't end up, it's just, first of all, it's just so hard on us also. Because then we end up always on the other side of that, feeling guilty, feeling bad, like, gosh, I did not show up in a great way. I know I kept thinking, like, just don't take the bait, when you're in those tough situations. Don't take the bait. You don't have to react to that right then. Yeah, take a step back, like you said, be thoughtful, and then respond. And maybe your response is, this is not the best place for me. Or maybe your response is, you know what, this can be better. This is what I'm going to do to make it better.
It's true. It's true. It's not a black and white situation. Ever. There's lots of degrees of gray in there.
Yeah, ever. Oh my gosh. This is so good. It's interesting, you started with just this long career you've had in the services industry. And so it's interesting when I asked you, as you look back and you think about like your greatest leadership lessons, isn't it interesting that it was like these situations where you stayed in the hard, where you led when it was difficult?
Uncomfortable, very difficult. That's where you get the greatest growth.
Yeah.
That's what helps you for your next job, next position, next career.
And it also doesn't, you're not like a bulldozing kind of person, right? You're very relational.
My intention is never to be a bulldozer. I think you need to collaborate with people because you get the best out of everybody when you're working together. Not that decisions don't need to be made and that everything doesn't need to be a committee decision, but you want to be open and listening. You want to invite people in to be able to have the right conversations so that if they're in a bad situation, they're also comfortable coming and talking to you, knowing that you will support them.
Yeah, I can only imagine the teams that you have led and the environment that you've created with that mindset.
I've been very fortunate to have great people on my teams and have worked with some really great folks.
Yeah. I wish our listeners could see the smile on your face. Like as soon as I mentioned your teams, you like lit up.
That's what makes it so much fun, is to see their growth and their development and where they're going next in their career. That to me is some of the best parts of leadership.
Giving people an opportunity, because I think people rise to the level of expectation that we set. And so I love seeing what you can do, especially if I sense your potential, you know?
Yes. That's the exciting part, right? Helping someone else grow and develop.
It is
it's a legacy.
Fun. Yeah. Well, thank you for highlighting all of this. So I would love to end by just going a little bit deeper into your leadership. So I've got a couple of rapid fire questions. You do not know what I'm going to ask you. I don't even really know for sure what I'm going to ask you. So we'll see. One question though, I always like to ask leaders like you who have been in the trenches, who have done the hard work is, what do people often misunderstand about you? Like, what do you wish people just knew right out of the gate about you?
I hope people know that I'm there with their best intentions in mind for the growth of the company, the growth of the client and the relationship, and the growth of the people, so that all of us can win together.
And what makes you feel most alive as the leader of your life? What makes you feel most alive?
To see people being so successful, to watch their potential and to see their growth, that they see the challenge and they do something uncomfortable and they did it well. Even if it wasn't perfect, they learned from it and they grew. I'm so fortunate to have some daughters in their 20s who are going through their own work experiences, maybe get more mentorship than they want from their mom.
Isn't that fascinating, though, to see them coming into the workplace? Oh,
yes.
Yeah, we share that. I have a daughter in her 20s also. So it's the growth. I mean, that makes you feel alive.
It's the growth, the possibilities.
You know, we call this show Being at Work because leadership development is self-development. So it's all about the inner work. And I always say, you know, that leadership is really about like becoming more of who you already are. So as you reflect on your career, what would you say is your greatest leadership gift or strength?
I think it's putting together a plan in the midst of chaos. So there's been a lot of fast-moving change management. And how do we take what can be a little bit chaotic and put together a plan so everybody has clarity around what our vision is, where we're going, and how we change things so that we're all on the same page and we're focusing on the solution and the problems ahead and not about gossip and rumors and all those other pieces. It's about the business.
Focusing on the right things. Yeah.
Yes.
Anne, thank you so much for being a part of our show.
It was a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Andrea.
This was lovely. I met you, when was that? Maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. I met you at Santa Clara University. I was co-facilitating with Barry Posner and immediately was so struck by your leadership and your insight and just the way you showed up with all smiles, open-minded, very relational. So thank you for modeling the way for all of us.
Oh, thank you. I learned so much from those classes that we had together and Barry's book and all the pieces with that. So thank you. It was such a pleasure.
If our listeners want to connect with you, Anne, where can they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Great.
At Anne Moser.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Let's connect to go a bit deeper. How can I help you? Looking for an executive coach, a facilitator for a team or leader engagement, or a high energy, heartfelt speaker? learn more and connect with me through our website at abundantempowerment.com. I look forward to co-creating something magical with you.